From cancer to coma, at the age of 24 years old, Mathew Ode was diagnosed with stage 3 testicular cancer, causing many near-death experiences from falling into a 2-week non-induced coma to kidney and liver failure, cardiac arrest, and also losing the ability to walk on his own 2 feet. Matt was in the ICU for over 40 days and the Cleveland Clinic for 53. He went from being 185 pounds as a personal trainer to 110 pounds in less than 8 months. Matt had to relearn to live his life entirely again. 2 years later after cancer, Matt is now a keynote motivational speaker and a mentor for young adults and families impacted by cancer, helping them take back control of their life from cancer and other traumatic experiences. Welcome everybody to the podcast. This is going to be a very powerful episode and conversation with Mathew, all about his cancer journey and how he went from survivor to superhero. That's what he calls it on his website. Cancer impacts all of us in some way, either directly or non-directly. My father was diagnosed with testicular cancer, the same kind as Matt, back in the 70s, and was told that his prognosis for living was very, very slim. This was before I was born, and as a result of the testicular cancer, chemotherapy was just becoming a new treatment drug for this. And so my dad courageously volunteered to go forward with the treatments. And as he was going through the chemo, somehow my mom also got pregnant. I won't get into the details of that, but my mom got pregnant. And when they found out that she was pregnant and my dad had this testicular cancer, the doctors recommended that they abort the child. So I think about this story. I wrote about the story in my book as well, Making Sense of Mindfulness. I talk about it in the context of opening your mind. And I just think about what it must have been like for my father in the 70s to be going through this very scary time in his life and then find out, his girlfriend is pregnant with me. And just what it took for him both my parents to open their mind enough to not go through with the abortion and go through no matter what the outcome was going to be of me. They said that possibly was going to have serious birth effects and side effects if they went through with the birth. And here I am. And I think back to it and I think how powerful it is that they opened their mind and in their own way, they have an amazing story, my parents, especially my dad, to tell about his cancer journey. He's still alive to this day to tell it. And I just have so much respect for him and admiration for his courage to go through that. Just recently, I've had several people in my immediate circle who have been diagnosed with cancer, and just hearing some of their stories and the ways that they're coping and dealing with it, I just felt really inclined to put together an episode on this disease, cancer. How do people cope? How do people deal with this situation when it comes up in their lives? And like I was saying, I'm so grateful and we are so fortunate to have Mathew Ode here on the podcast to share some wisdom and insight about how to navigate when life has got you down in the dumps. How do you turn your life around and rise back up? So without further ado, everybody, please meet Mathew Ode. All right, Mathew, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited you're here.
Thanks, Keith. I appreciate you having me. Super excited to be here. Super excited to give as much value and, all the experiences that I've learned along the way to hopefully help your community and help your audience.
You have an incredible story. Like your website even says that it's survivor to superhero. And just reading your backstory and what's happened for you, you really are a superhero. I feel like I'm interviewing a superhero today.
I would not call myself a superhero. I would just say that I look at life, you can look at life two different ways. Let me just start with this. This is a really good example. You can look at life as saying, why is everything in life happening to me? Or how is it happening for me? I'm going to say it one more time. If you start looking at life and saying, why is this happening to me? You're going to make excuses. You're going to blame the universe. You're going to blame other people. It's going to get you nowhere. Yes. Is there going to be completely unfair news in your life? Such for my example, cancer? Yes. But I said, how is life happening for me? How am I going to learn from this? How am I going to grow from this experience? How am I going to become a better version of myself? But more importantly, how am I going to use my experiences to help other people? So, I think superheroes, you can call them in any way you want, but we all have the opportunity to be a superhero in our life. We don't have to go through cancer. We don't have to go through anything crazy but we do have to look at life as how is this happening for us and use it as a lesson.
Wow.
That's been my motto. So
Welcome to the show.
yeah.
I'm already feeling the positivity from you. Wow,
Thanks,
thank you.
man.
I want you to take us back to before your cancer journey and were informed of this. Like, were you
Yeah.
always this positive? Did you come in with this mindset? What was life
Uh,
like before?
yeah, great question, man. I've always been a happy person. You could ask my parents. When I was a kid, I was always smiling. I was always like full of joy. And then as I grew older, I always was that kid. Like my friends would always say, "Man, Matt, why are you just like the kind kid in the group all the time? Like you're so kind. Like you don't really." And I'm not trying. Sorry, I don't mean to like humble myself, but I just was like I just felt like the key to happiness was being kind to others and not like belittling people and things like that. And I always felt that way. But of course there was times where I get angry and I get upset, and I'd be upset at people. But for the most part, when I was growing up, man, I think it was such a big key for me to say, listen, how can I help the next person? With whatever they're going through. None of us are the same in life. We all have our own struggles. We all have our own scars. We all have a difficult moment in our life. And, the classic saying, don't read a book by its cover. Don't judge a person by their cover. I never am that type of person. I'm always the person who's going to listen and meet you first and get to know you and then say, hey, listen, do you want to be a part? Do I think that, this person's a good fit to be a part of my life? Or is this person a constant negative, draining person that, hey, listen, I'm not going to waste my time and energy with this individual. So
I love it. I can feel that you embody and walk your talk, like full on. It exudes out of you. And as you're sharing all this, like early influences, I mean, how did you develop that mindset pre-cancer? Like, how did you come into the world so positive?
Let me tell you this. The people you hang around with is vital for the destination you have in life. And I told myself in the beginning, I will be 100%. I started to hang around not great people that weren't doing great things. But the quicker you can realize that and the quicker you can say, listen, I need to stop hanging around with these people, is the quicker that you can change the direction of your life. It's kind of amazing how you can try to say, hey, I want to get to this destination in life. And as you're getting there, you're going to either have the people that are like, go on, good job, you're doing great, I'm going to encourage you, I'm going to push you forward. Or you're going to have the people that are like, wow, are they trying to be better than me? What are you doing? You're not spending any time with us anymore. And they're going to drag you right back down to their level.
Yeah.
And that is where you got to say, listen, if that's that type of person, and you want to know the sad truth is sometimes it's what you thought was your close friend, what you thought was a close family member, people that you loved and care about. People come and go into your life. I want you to know this. People come and go into your life. Some people are meant to stay in it forever. Some people are meant to have parts of it to learn from it. But you have to recognize it in order to learn from those people, or they can bring you right back down. So that's kind of how it got me to that position, I would say.
Wow. Yeah, I hear you. I love that you surround yourself with positive people, and it just sounds like, you've really had that blessing in your life up to this point and made the decision to choose that as well, which is incredible.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get into your story a little bit more. I mean, I told people in the intro what you've been through, but I'm curious, just take me to the first sort of awareness when you started experiencing symptoms of cancer.
Yeah.
Like, what were some of those symptoms that you were experiencing in the first place?
100%. So if it's okay, I'd like to just do a little backstory really quickly, because how I always start, so as like a speaker and everything, I always start my story with a specific date. And I'm 28 years old, by the way. And 4 years ago, March 17th of 2016, so it was St. Patrick's Day at the time, is when I met my current girlfriend. And we were out at the bar hanging out and everything, and I got her number that night. And this is a vital, right? It's a vital part of the story, I promise. So, as the summer kind of went on and stuff, we started dating about, a couple months later. As the summer went on, we were doing hiking, kayaking, all of these adventurous activities. And at the time I was a personal trainer, eating pretty much perfectly. I was, working out 6 to 7 days a week. And then all of a sudden I started to notice these minor back pains. And, 24 years old, you're like, okay, whatever, I'll be absolutely fine. It's probably from lifting. It's probably from this. But they kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point where it was hard for me to walk, to the point where, like, I was so stubborn that I wouldn't go to a doctor. I went to a chiropractor for a little bit, didn't do anything. And then one night I was over at Lauren's house and I woke up and I ended up puking up blood. And immediately I was like, okay, obviously something's dead wrong. And I get rushed to the emergency room. They find out that I had lost 2/3 of the blood circulating in my body, which is equivalent to actually being shot with a gun. So they put me into the emergency surgery to figure out what was causing the bleeding after they gave me 6 bags of blood to kind of just get my energy, everything back up. So I get rushed into the emergency room to get that surgery. The next day I come out and I think it's over. I'm like, okay, whatever they did, it's hopefully done. I'm in the recovery room. And all of a sudden the doctor walks in. It's just me and my parents. And he has this blank stare in his eyes. I knew something was completely wrong at that moment. And he comes over to my parents and he goes, can I speak to you two in private? And immediately I stop him and I say, you're going to tell me exactly what you want to tell them. So he sits down, he grabs my hand, he looks at me and he says, Matt, we found an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We believe it is cancerous, and we have to rush you to the main campus of the Cleveland Clinic immediately, which is one of the top, thank gosh, it's one of the top hospitals in the entire country, and I'm only, 40 minutes away at this point. So, I just remember looking over at my parents at the time, crying, and I'm thinking to myself, like, instead of being weak, instead of giving up already on this news, how am I going to be strong for them? How am I going to be strong for me having to share this news with Lauren, by the way, who was only dating me for 2 months at that time. So I didn't know she was going to break up with me. I didn't know she was going to stay with me. It was just like a crapshoot. I did, had new friends and family were going to come in. So I said, okay, Matt, I need to stay strong here. And I think for a lot of us, it's okay to express your emotions 100%. I'm going to get to that soon. But you really, like I was telling you before, with the everything happens for you and not to you, I really started to look at it as like, okay, how can I learn from this experience? How can I grow from this experience? And I started to just flood my mind with positivity as much as I could. I obviously was hurting inside, but, I had to keep going. So they brought me to the Cleveland Clinic. And immediately from there, I was in the ICU room at the time. They did a bunch of tests and they ended up finding out that I had the highest stage of testicular cancer. So how they measure testicular cancer, I had what's called stage 3C. They actually don't have a stage 4. I remember asking my oncologist, and they measured it through what's called a AFP marker. It's a tumor marker. Okay. And usually your tumor marker needs to be below 5 to be cancer free. Mine was over 65,000. They can't even mark it. Like 65,000 was their highest. Mine was over. I had cancer all over my body. So I had cancer, in my lungs. I had cancer pretty much everywhere in my upper body, not in my brain, thank God, but everywhere else.
It had spread everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. And so I had friends, family flooding in. At the time, I was definitely still in shock and I was still trying to be strong. And then all of a sudden, Lauren comes in and I'm freaking out. And I just remember looking at her and, we kind of locked eyes and we just started bawling our eyes out. Literally, like we were crying, we hugged each other. And I knew right then and there, she was going to be my rock throughout this journey. Like I needed somebody and she was going to be that person. For me, I needed to let those emotions out. I needed to let what I was going through, out to the world. So it was a big part of my life right there. And right after that, the doctors came over and they're like, hey, we need to put you directly on chemotherapy, and not just chemotherapy, but really intense chemotherapy, which was called BEP, which is bleomycin etoposide cisplatin. And they usually only do 4 rounds of it. But for my case, they're like, we have to do an extra round because your cancer is just too advanced right now. We need to get an extra round in. Wow. So immediately I was put on the chemotherapy right after that.
Oh. That sounds like a quick turn of events from walking in to get this checked, and the next thing you know, you're like in the ICU, basically.
Yeah.
You're going to still be alive.
In a matter of 4 days, I go from what I thought was a healthy personal trainer with some back pains and it was difficult to walk and stuff. And I knew something was wrong, but I didn't obviously know it, to 4 days later, highest stage of cancer, fighting for my entire life, and wow. I pray nobody has to go through tragic news like that, but I'll tell you this, the most difficult moments, the most challenging moments in your life is what molds you into the person you're meant to be, is what allows you to have the biggest opportunity, allows you to have the biggest growth experience of your life. And I'm not saying that you need to go through something crazy like that, but I just want to let people know who are going through tough times right now, because I know COVID right now has hit everyone, whether it's financially, with your heart or your health, whether it's with your family, you're in relationship. There is an aspect of your life I know that is really struggling, your mental health, physical health, whatever it is. And just know that this is molding you into something bigger, something greater, as long as you're willing to accept and learn from it.
One of the things I'm loving about you, Matt, is you're expressing both sides of the coin. I mean, clearly there's like a really positive mindset embedded in you, the way you show up. But I also really am appreciating the part of you that is vulnerable enough to say, like, I was completely drop dead scared and needed an emotional release. And is it Lauren, your partner, having her as the rock?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, I mean, I've never been in your shoes, or anyone for that matter, that's that close to death.
Yeah.
What was that like? Like, what was going on in your mind at the time?
Yeah. This is where faith comes into a massive play. I'm not going to push faith on anybody. This isn't a faith thing, but I do believe in God. And that is where my faith came so strong into play. I told myself I cannot let my mind continue to gravitate towards death. Like, I just can't do it. I'm not saying I didn't. Trust me. There were times where it gets very scary, and there was really like dark moments, even past like the chemo, which we'll get into. But, for me, every time I started to get those thoughts, I would instantly pray. I would just say, please, God, look over me. Please give me the positive thoughts, the positive encouragement, the positive outlook on life today. And, I would just try to look at the positive things in my day. And this is what I would do. I would say, what is one thing today that is getting me closer to my destination? One thing. That's it. As simple as possible. I don't need multiple things. What is one positive thing? Did I walk a little further today? Did my chemotherapy go well today? Did I eat something good? Like, did I have a good conversation with Lauren? Did I have a good, did my doctor give me some good news today? What is one positive thing I can do today that's going to get me closer to my destination? It's constantly allowing me not to gravitate towards the negative thoughts of death, the negative thoughts of what could happen, the negative thoughts of, is cancer going to get worse instead of better? So.
Wow. That just like brings me right into the present moment. Just like the simple one thing a day that you can focus on to be here, and gratitude. Incredible.
Yes.
Just curious about this, as I'm reading your story and hearing about it, you were in coma for like, is it 2 weeks?
Yeah. So after, I'll get to that in just a sec. So really what happened was I went through all my chemotherapy. So I ended up going through those 5 rounds, which lasted about 4 months. I had dropped from a 185-pound personal trainer to 140 pounds. So in about 5 months, I lost all my hair. I was very fatigued, nauseous, all of it. Anybody who's watching this who knows somebody who has been through chemotherapy, you know what it's like. It's not easy. It's very challenging. I went through all the complications pretty much. Had my ups, had my downs, had to get a port in my second to last round because they couldn't stick me anymore with needles, and I was supposed to have a port in the beginning, but it just never happened. So just complications after complications, but eventually I persevered. And so what ended up happening was I went to my oncologist, and he sat down with me and he said, Matt, we have good news and we have bad news. Here's your good news. Your tumor has shrunk from 11 centimeters to 3 centimeters. The chemo was working and everything's looking better. But the bad news is your tumor is wrapped around what's called your inferior vena cava. Now, your inferior vena cava is a central vein that goes from the bottom of your upper body to your heart. He said, we're going to have to do a 10.5-hour surgery to remove the vein, to remove the tumor, and the rest of the cancer in your body. We have to have 4 surgeons involved. Usually there's only like 1, maybe 2. We're going to have 4 different surgeons involved, and we don't know the complications. So that was probably waiting those 2.5 weeks was one of the longest 2.5 weeks of my life. Like I'll tell you right now, like that's where the deep thoughts came into play. Cause I just knew like, okay, this is the second, like, okay, this is that second, like part of the whole journey here where I know it's going to be challenging, but I don't know what's going to happen. So I go and I get this surgery 2.5 weeks later. And like I told you, going into it was 140 pounds. Coming out of the surgery after 10.5 hours, I was close to 200 pounds. So what had happened was they cut my left hip to my right hip open. They had to take out the tumor, take out the vein, everything, work through my intestines. And what happened was my body went into like this survival mode, and all this swelling occurred in my stomach. And I remember waking up like 2 to 3 days later and I couldn't move. And I remember asking my doctor after they took the breathing tube out of my mouth, and I was like, is this normal? And he's like, no, this isn't normal, but they had a draining tube in me. So like the fluid should eventually drain and come out of your stomach. I said, okay. So after a couple more days, I start getting up. I'm able to move a little bit. After a little over a week, I'm out of the hospital. And then a week out of the hospital, all of a sudden, the draining, which wasn't supposed to happen, just stops. Just like this, just stops.
Really?
Within like an hour, the Percocets, the Oxycontin, whatever they had on me to relieve the pain, nothing was working. I was in so much pain. They rushed me back to the emergency room, and they ended up having to drain 7 liters of fluid out of my stomach, which caused me to go into complete kidney and liver failure. I had a cone drilled inside my head to relieve brain swelling. I had a catheter in my neck and in my chest because they thought I was going to be on dialysis the rest of my life. And that is what caused me to end up going into a 2-week non-induced coma. I pretty much, my entire body decided to shut down on me. So really big testimony of faith actually is while I was in my coma, and Lauren and my parents never left. They stayed all 2 to 2.5 weeks. I don't know the exact date. It was anywhere from 2 to 2.5 weeks. They stayed every day, never left. And during that time, my mom would have people go to these churches and just pray for me. Pray, like we had 3 prayer services, and we have hundreds of people praying for me in the church, 100 people. I mean, she told me people are praying around the world, like Africa, like, Asia, everywhere.
I'm getting chills just hearing that. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
And here's the crazy part. In the middle of the very last prayer service, right in the middle as they're praying for me, was the day that I woke up from my coma. And I want to share something with you too. Every day, Lauren would come up to me and she would hold my hand and she would just say, Matt, it's time to wake up. And that was the day, one of those days she was holding my hand was the day that I woke up. She grabbed me and she felt my fingers wiggle and she could see my eyelids starting to open. And she ran over to the doctor. She ran over to my parents and was like, Matt's awake. And they didn't believe her. And eventually they all came over, and it wasn't like I woke up and could talk or anything, but they knew it because they saw everything kind of starting to move and stuff like that. And yeah, so for me, it was God basically saying, listen, Matt, this isn't the end of your journey. This is just the beginning. And this might be a powerful message for some of you out there where you feel like you're in rock bottom. You feel like you're at the lowest point of your life. And I want to let you know, this could just be a new chapter, a new start to such a bigger beginning, such a greater journey for your life. Remember, the only place you can go from rock bottom is up. That's it. That's all you can do. You can go up from there. And I think that was God's message for me. Is like, listen, Matt, you're in the lowest point of your life right now, but the only place you're going to go from here is up. And yes, there's going to be some struggles along the way, which wasn't the end, unfortunately. But yeah. So after the coma, a week later, I had a breathing tube in my mouth. Once again, they took the breathing tube again out of my mouth, and they started to see some progress. I could mumble some words. I could say some things, not much. And they said, Matt, we're going to take out one of the catheters in your neck because we just see some progress. Everything's starting to work a little bit better. Well, as they do so, I end up having an irrhythm heartbeat. I end up going into cardiac arrest, and they have to do 8 minutes of CPR on me. Caused me to go right back into another week coma. Wow. So at this point, I'm in the ICU for almost a month at this point when I finally wake up again.
So I'm curious, like, how, just hearing the transition from this coma to the cardiac arrest, like, how conscious are you that these things are taking place while they're taking place? Like,
yeah, a lot. I've gotten questions, Matt, what's it like being in a coma? For me, I actually do have some dreams that I can remember. Now, for me, it was like I had it was really weird because I could see nurses that I'd never met before that were helping me, that were guiding me. And they were part of my dream along with a lot of really my parents and Lauren. And then at the end, I swear, I can't make this up. At the end, I remember I was running away from these nurses because I don't know why. It was just part of my coma dream. And eventually I get into this room and like everyone's there, family, friends, people I love the most. And they're literally just saying, Matt, it's time to wake up. And I swear to God, like, I just remember waking up and seeing the ceiling light. And that's literally all I can remember. And I know I went in and out of the coma a lot more, but literally, like, that's what I remember. That's literally what I can remember from my coma. And then after that, when I went to cardiac arrest, you can count me out. I mean, I was on so much drugs and I was still so out of it. I mean, I when I woke up, like, I was not fully conscious, like, at all, like, for that week. Like, I mean, I was saying words and stuff, but I could remember very little bits and pieces. That's it. And then when I went,
yeah, it sounds like you were sort of in and out of a dream time and then this conscious awakened life and like between two spaces. Is that kind of what it was like?
100%. Yeah, it was really, really weird. It was like maybe I was waking up, seeing the nurses, and then going back to sleep, kind of thing, and not knowing whether I was awake or I was sleeping.
Wow.
But yeah, it's crazy. But I do remember the day I woke up from my second, I guess you can call, coma after going into cardiac arrest, and that was Valentine's Day. Reason I remember is because I woke up and and Lauren and my parents, mainly Lauren, had decorated the whole entire room of like hearts and flowers, and she did a lot of coloring and stuff for me and put it on there. I remember waking up and seeing all that, and I didn't know where I was, but I can remember that day vividly. And eventually, after a couple of days, I started to get to it. And after probably 2 or 3 days, I started to realize, I said, okay, I couldn't move an inch, by the way. I could not move my fingers, like anything really. I could see and maybe say some things, and I could maybe go like this, like a little bit. That was it. And I just remembered, I said, okay, Matt, I'm starting to come to it now. And I have to relive my entire life over again from ground zero. Have to live it all over again. And literally from laying on that bed to getting up and taking my very first steps again was close to a 2.5 to 3 week process of 4 nurses every single day helping me. 4 nurses every single day coming in and helping me. And in a matter of that time, I've had 4 surgeries too. So, when I told you that I drained 7 liters of fluid, it took 3 surgeries to, kind of drain out all of that fluid in my stomach and figure out what was going on. So eventually I started making my first steps again. I started taking those steps, and I just, in my mind, I knew something was so wrong. Like, I just knew, I don't know what it was, but I'd walk and I'd get so dizzy that I couldn't even like make it 10 steps. I'd be like, I have to sit down, and then I'd walk again and I'd feel like I'm going to pass out and all these crazy things. But eventually I persevered, and the doctor's like, okay, we need to get you out of this ICU room. We think you're making progress once again. I mean, of course, every time I feel like I'm making progress. So, okay, we're going to get you out of here. And it's, at this point, it's been over a month in the ICU. I get to a recovery room, and within 3 days of the recovery room, they're like, I am making some progress, but I knew something still, it just wasn't right. And they're like, okay, we're going to take you to your final stages of physical therapy. And as they're wheeling me out, not in a wheelchair, in my bed, as they're wheeling me out in my bed, I look down at my stitches, and my stitches pop open and my spleen sticking out of my stomach.
Oh, my goodness.
They had to rush me into a 5th major surgery where they had to do what was called an open wound surgery. They couldn't close my skin back together. So they had to leave a football-sized mesh over my stomach. And I'm sure you guessed where I ended up back in the ICU. So this time, waking up, I knew exactly where I was because I was very conscious throughout that part of the journey. And I remember waking up, and the scariest part was I had my hands and my feet tied to the bed because I didn't want me touching my stomach at all. And I had a breathing tube in my mouth. So for 2 straight days, I couldn't say a word, and I couldn't get anybody's attention. So nobody knew that I was technically like awake. So I couldn't move and I couldn't say anything. So,
but you could actually consciously be thinking.
100%. Yeah. And that was where I went deep into faith. And I remember asking God, I said, I said, God, I can give up right now. I can be done. This could be the end. Or like I just told you before, the only place I can go is up. And I don't know what it was, but some magical miracle thing happened when they took off, when they released me from my hands, my feet and everything. And I swear the second I got up, I walked further than I ever did previous to the ICU room or previous to the recovery room. And dude, within 3 days, I was out of the ICU room. I was into the recovery room, another 3 days out of there and into my final stages of physical therapy.
Okay.
And,
so that's
I know.
This sounds crazy. I just want to get this right. So, I mean, in your story, and you're telling me now, like you relearned how to walk in a fairly short period of time where you were completely bedridden, walking. What do you attribute that to? Like, how did that happen?
A combination of things. Number one, I think part of it is my health and fitness background. Like I told you before, I was very healthy. I don't even want to know what would happen if I didn't take care of my body before all this. I just don't, because I don't think I would be here, to be honest. So, so a lot of it had to do, number one, mindset. So like saying, listen, one step at a time, Matt. It's not just going to happen overnight. Like, it's so important to anybody out there right now. Like, instant gratification is like the number one mental health issue right now. I swear to God, people want things so quickly, and when they don't get them, they think the world is against them. They think that people hate them. They think that nobody likes them because they don't get enough likes, or they don't get this money, or they don't get this right away. And it causes so much anxiety or stress or depression or whatever it is in your life. And instead, how about you just focus on yourself and say, what can I do today to better myself? And that was kind of my motto. And I'm not saying that I had this perfect mindset. There was no way I had this perfect mindset throughout this journey, but
right.
It really did help just saying, okay, Matt, like, what can I do today to literally get myself up off this bed? And it was hard as hell, man. When I say hard, like, looking back at it, like literally trying to think of it right now, oh my gosh, like, I can't explain it. I just can't, because it's relearning to do this all over again. So
what kept you motivated? Like, what kept you motivated to get to this point?
Probably Lauren, my parents, people I cared about. I wanted to do it for them, not myself. I was bigger than myself. Yes, I wanted to do it to take care of myself and get myself healthy again. But at the end of the day, it's just like when you have a dream in life, your dream isn't just about yourself. If it is, then you're selfish and you're never going to reach it. And once you put somebody else in the picture, or something of a way to help and give back, or to be there for that person, your motivation and adrenaline, or whatever you want to call it, is, I can't explain it. That's it. So my faith, the people I wanted to do it for, and my health and fitness background were literally the three key things that I did. And having the right mindset, meaning every day I was just disciplined in what I had to do. I didn't have a choice. It was literally fighting for my life. It was like, okay, give up on my life, or what's the next step? That's it, period. You didn't have a choice. It wasn't just like, okay, I can come back tomorrow and try again. No, like, there is no tomorrow necessarily. You know what I mean? Like,
I do. Yeah. So. It's just now or never. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious too, like, just coming up the other side of this, and you're in full remission at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, I am now. Yeah, I'm a little over 4 years now since the diagnosis, and about 3.5 years cancer free. So.
Oh, like, I'm just applauding this.
Thank you.
That is a miracle.
Appreciate it.
It's an absolute miracle. And I'm so glad you're here on the planet. And I'm just curious, like, the cancer journey, this is a pretty broad stroke question I'm about to ask you. So not to overthink it, but just your first get. I mean, what has cancer taught you about being here on the planet?
Time, I would say. If I had to say one word, it was my time. Time with the people you love. Time not wasted doing stuff that you don't like for other people to impress them, or to have acceptance in your life. Time to actually go out and do what you're meant to do with your life. Period. Time. That's what cancer taught me.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah, I could go on more, but if you wanted a short, quiet answer, that's it. So
that's really powerful. It's true.
Thanks.
For people, it's interesting as we're having this conversation. There's been a few people in my immediate circle that have recently been diagnosed with cancer, and they're in the early stages of trying to figure out what this journey is going to look like for them. And so I also was wondering if you could speak to other people right now that are like battling with this disease, and what would you tell them?
Yeah. Number one is, do not fight this alone. Make sure that, for me, when I was released out of that hospital, by the way, after over 53 days, the day I was released was March 17th of 2017, which is exactly 1 year from when I met Lauren. And I swear she was an angel sent down for me. And I wouldn't be here today without her. I wouldn't be here today without my parents. So I just want to let everyone know, like, it's okay to rely for help from people. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, listen, like, I can't fight this battle alone. And just just recognize who those people are that you know is going to be there for you. That's the first thing I would say. And number two is not every day is going to be perfect. But once again, like I was saying before, if you can find one positive thing out of that day, it's going to help you push yourself forward. It's going to help you keep going. It's going to help you say, listen, I'm done letting cancer continue to define me, and I'm going to be victorious instead of the victim in this situation.
Wow.
And I mean, I know for a fact that like a positive mindset will do miracles, because I'm not supposed to be here right now. I'll tell you that. I know for a fact, and I've talked to other people who had 30 days left to live and they're still here. I've had people, I mean, like their stories are unbelievable, and it all comes down to one thing: a positive mindset with imperfect action, saying, I'm just going to try one little thing every day. That's it. It's like, that's all you can do. So.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of answers my question about how to stay positive in tough times. But also people that like, I mean, I imagine when you're told your prognosis is not good, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you go against all odds and step into this sort of high level of focused determination? I mean, you're saying positive mindset, but being in that moment when all odds are against you, like how do you even get to that place of positive mindset?
Do not hold it all in. That's the number one thing. Let your emotions go. I'm telling you, so especially men out there, I want to talk to a lot, and women too, but mostly you men, when you hold your feelings in, when you hold your struggles, your pain, whatever you're going through in life, it's like every day one extra piece of baggage is lifted on your shoulder every single day, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. But the second you're saying, listen, maybe it's just one person that you care about that you need to talk about this with or whatever. The second you're able to express your vulnerability, express what you're going through, and just say, listen, whatever these emotions are feeling right now, I will accept them for, what they are, but I will not let them define me. I will accept them for what they are, but I will not let them define me. Meaning I'll accept my news because I have cancer, but I will not let it define me. Instead, I will be the better version of this. I will get through this somehow. And yes, it comes down to, once again, faith and support. Those are two biggest things: faith and support. Your environment, your network. I wouldn't be, doing this today if it wasn't for me changing my environment after cancer too. I mean, my battle after cancer was just as much of a journey as it was during. As hard as it was then, just as hard as it was after, I'm telling you. And it's because I said I need to do something bigger with my life, but I couldn't do it unless I got in front of people who had the same mindset and the same vision as me. So I just want to let you know, like, if you get that unexpected news, you get that challenging news of cancer, I wouldn't say embrace it. I would say like accept it for what it is, but you cannot just hold it in, because it's just going to make matters worse. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to express it, and you're going to feel better about yourself. Yeah, I guarantee you, most of the time, how many of you have just had a really good cry one time, and you just like, after you're done, you're just like, okay, like I feel better. I mean, yes, it's tough. Yes, this was struggling. Yes, this and that, but you relax more. You feel better. You're like, I let it go. Let it go. So it's the same thing with these news. Like you just please don't just bottle it in. That's all I ask. That's it.
Yeah, that's so powerful. Yeah, the emotions need to flow through, or they're going to dam up and ultimately cause dis-ease in some ways. I'm curious about that. I put out a Instagram and Facebook post every day with like a positive quote, and I also send out like these emails every day. They're positive quotes. And it's interesting we're talking right now. I had some pushback on it recently on an intention that I had set and put out there. Kind of came through the spirit. I put it out, and then I got a few people going, well, that's not always true. And I'm just curious your perspective on this.
I love this.
You ready?
I think I'm gonna be able to help you with this part, but keep going. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't have the quote in front of me because this is just coming through as we're talking. But ultimately, the gist of what was coming through and I was putting out there was, all forms of dis-ease that show up in our body are at some level connected to, thoughts or negativity or some sort of piece like that. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
On the quote or on the negative energy that people are giving you?
What's that?
on the quote that you put out, or the
Yes.
negative energy or the feedback people were giving you of
On the
why
quote
are they
itself, the concept that like when you, disease manifests in the body due to, our thinking that's kind of at some level caused the disease in the first place.
Yeah. So
Thoughts?
yeah, I think that 100%, man. Like I think that, like, okay, are you saying like you think that it just kind of it can manifest? Like I kind of want to hear a little bit more about it. I'm interested. Like I want
Yeah.
to like understand so I can put my real input on it. So give me a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Sure. Well, yeah, just the idea that dis-ease in the physical body, right?
Okay.
Any dis-ease in the body when the body's not in like this
Got
harmonious
it.
state, right?
Yeah.
At some level, at some point, perhaps a thought was triggered that like caused inflammation in the body and had it build
Yes.
up to the
Okay.
point, you know what I mean? Like stress or
100%.
anxiety.
I think we're going to find out that I'm not saying there is cancer that is genetic. There's cancer that is hereditary. There's cancer that not necessarily has that cause, but I can almost guarantee, and it could have been me too. Truthfully, it could have been me, that stress, anxiety, mental health issues, everything, not taking care of your mental health can cause extreme damages, such as cancer it will definitely cause heart issues. It will definitely cause I 100% agree with that, because your body it's impossible to understand. And like, I'm telling you, like when you're constantly feeding negative emotions, what do you think that's doing to your body? It's damaging it. It's damaging the nerves. It's damaging the cells. It's damaging everything. Everything's out of a line. When things are out of a line, that's how cancer kind of forms. I think like it comes down, I mean, not all of it, but some of it has to do with like blood cells and disformation of certain things in your body, and it causes tumors or causes things like that. And at the end of the day, it's like some of that could be caused from stress. Some of that, I mean, I went through like a year and a half worth of anxiety, and straight anxiety, like panic attacks, you name it. Like wake up every day and I have anxiety kind of feel.
Was
and
this
then
pre-cancer or during?
Literally like a year before cancer. And then I also was in like a really ugly relationship that before I learned that I was in that total stress. It was like stress after stress after stress. And then eventually I seriously think I got cancer like a few months later.
Wow.
And I don't know if it was from that or not, but
right.
But at the end of the day, I can tell you this, like, yeah, your body is 100% correlated with the thoughts that you bring. So, I mean, look at this. You see some of the oldest people in the world are monks, like people who train their mind every single day. I'm not saying go out and be a monk and just pray and meditate every single day. I'm not saying you have to go that crazy, but I'm saying you look at those people, and a high majority of them you look at the oldest people and the people who've lived the longest is generally the monks. And that's because they've taken the time to discover themselves and really dig deep in their inner lives. And I think it's only getting more powerful, like literally mindset, mental health, energy, emotions this is what this next decade's about. 2020 to 2030 is all about this. And we've already seen it with COVID. The amount of depression and suicide rates and everything that is skyrocketed because of this is sad. It's really sad. And I agree with you, man, on that. I 100% agree with you on it. So you have my thoughts.
No, I really appreciate you diving into that, because it's and I'm getting to, as we're talking about it, there's different lenses and levels of reality to see it as well, right? Like, I mean, mindset is part of it, but somebody that was there was somebody recently that was telling me their cancer diagnosis was caused by something that happened early on, like, and it just kind of triggered again now in their later life. And so on that level of reality, that might be literally what happened. But I get curious about, well, what emotionally is taking place to trigger that back in at this time in your life? Like, I'm curious, I don't have the answer. But there's
nobody does. I mean, because everyone has their own life, we see somebody and they might look so happy all the time and all this, and then as soon as you don't see them off of a camera or like off of their celebrity or whatever they are, they could have the most difficult, challenging mental, emotional, physical life they've ever had. You just don't even know. Like, let's put it this way. Nobody knew the guy from Black Panther, Chad Boswick, I believe his name, had cancer, and he died. The second he died, everyone was like, oh my God, how did he die? And then he had cancer. Nobody knew that. Everyone was like, when's his next movie coming out? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, nobody knows what anyone's going through it. So it's like, at the end of the day, life will always be a mystery in some way. but I believe with what you're saying, and to kind of extend that to the maybe negative criticism that you're having. I don't know if you had a tough time dealing with it or not, but for anybody
goodness.
who,
Of course I did.
me too, all the time,
right?
all the time. Yeah. And this is what I would say to it. And this is what started to really, really help me. Number one is your intentions pure? Is your intentions good? Look into yourself first. Is my intention in this post something to help others? Am I truly just trying to help others? And if it is, then you have to stay laser focused on what you want. You cannot, this is a big thing. You can't get too high in the highs and you can't get too low in the lows. So if somebody's out there praising you and saying, you're amazing and all this, I'm not saying don't.
A freak of the ego at that point.
And guess what? The second somebody goes down to criticize you, it's like, I don't care if I got 1 million of them. That one person's going to let me control my day, my week, my month. So you need to stay laser focused and say, is my intention with what I'm doing to help other people? And at the end of the day, not everyone's going to agree with me. I don't care how positive I am. I don't care how loving and caring I am. There's always going to be somebody out there that's going to want to bring you down. There is. I don't care who it is. And you have to be strong enough to say, listen, I know me better. I'm not going to let somebody else dictate my direction or my happiness in life that doesn't even know me most of the time. The fact that they had to go and spend time out of their day to create a negative post is more about them than it does about you. Yeah,
it moves me into a space of compassion and bless them and on the journey, really. Interesting. There's a couple more things coming up as we're talking. You've talked a lot about faith in our conversation and your relationship with God. And, I'm curious about that. Just what's your relationship with God about? What's that like? And how did you cultivate that to a place where you really, ultimately co-created your healing with God? Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Like, I have a very unique relationship because I'm not the type of kid who can go out and know all the Bible verses and stuff like that. Like, if you're like, hey, Matt, what's, X, Y, and Z, I won't know it. But I will tell you every single day in my journey, I pray and I rely on his guidance to push me forward. So when I have a very scary thing that I know I need to go do, I take a deep breath, I pray, and I say, God, whatever happens here, just give me the courage to keep pushing forward every day. Just keep giving me the courage to push me forward. And my mother was big into faith always as a kid. So she'd always bring me to church and stuff. But then come college, I was in and out. I would go to church sometimes and not. And then after college, I wasn't really going to church as much, but I knew like I wanted something bigger with my life and I didn't know what it was. And I would still kind of rely on God, but not to that extent. And then all of a sudden cancer happened. And the fact of these like crazy scenarios of, Lauren coming into my life and me learning from this experience and growing from this experience and relearning to live my entire life again, by the way, I was 110 pounds coming out of that hospital. So I went from 190 to 110 pounds and I had to relearn to live my emotional, physical, and mental life all over again. And it wasn't just a journey on my own. It was God, it was my family, it was everybody. So, and that took 2 years. I wasn't able to help anybody except for myself for those 2 years. And that's a big thing. I know for a fact, whatever you're going through in life, you have to take care of yourself first before you can impact anybody else. Yes. You have to take care of yourself first, because at the end of the day, nobody is going to be able to relate or to be able to, kind of gravitate towards you if you can't give back with what you've learned and with what you've experienced. So it was me taking care of myself and really relying on God to just give me the steps to keep pushing myself forward, even in the darkest times and even in the most difficult times. So, I can't. And the cool part is it's like people just coming into my life for reasons I can't explain. I don't question it anymore. I just don't. I don't question any of it anymore. So, and you know what? Like for anybody out there, whatever your faith is, you need to be strong with it. I'm telling you, it's gonna help you in so many ways. Yeah, really what's
fascinating me about your story is like I get the sense that God, whatever God is to you or to anybody, it's not like, maybe it is, but I sense it's not just a conversation going on in your head. It's like the right people showing up at the right times, or a miracle taking place where you're going into remission when it's unexpected. Like it's like the signs are kind of confirmations that relationship is in place. Is that correct, or am I putting words in your mouth?
So true. You might think I'm crazy, but I'm actually grateful for everything I went through. truly grateful. And the reason I can say that is because I wouldn't have been able to start this Facebook group I just did with cancer, young adults impacted by cancer. I wouldn't be able to be a motivational speaker. I wouldn't be on this podcast today. I wouldn't have met the incredible people in my life. I still wouldn't even be with Lauren. I can almost guarantee it. We were not in a good position. We were kind of in like a rough patch where we were like, both like, is this going to work out? Is this not? And then cancer brought us like, okay, we're in this. Like, we made this commitment and she never gave up on me. And, now we're most likely going to be getting married within the next 1.5 to 2 years. We've already started looking at rings together and stuff. And it's been a great, God has done so many amazing things for me. And that's what I truly believe. I believe it's him. I don't believe it's just some random coincidence. I don't believe in luck. I believe in, I think there's luck in a sense, but I truly believe it's God putting the opportunities when you are willing to put yourself out there. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. This is how I look at it. God will give you the opportunities, but it's your obligation to take action on them. It's your obligation. He's not going to do things for you. He's not just going to magically make things happen. You have to be the person to say, listen, I have this opportunity in my life and I can go the difficult road, but with a positive and outlooking destination, or I can just take the easy road and probably live a mediocre life where I look back on and say a lot of things that I regret. So,
wow. Yeah, it's really up to us, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Decisions. Okay, well, I just before we wrap here, there's a couple of things I want to make sure people are aware of. Is you just mentioned it, the Facebook community you just started. Can you share a bit about that?
Absolutely. I started it 5 days ago, actually, and we already have over 100 members. It's absolutely incredible. It's been weighing on my heart lately. You want to talk about something scary? Like, I had so much self-doubt doing this. So I was like afraid. I didn't think I could handle any of this. And what it is it's a young adult, but it's not just young adults. I posted as a young adult, but it's also, we have some people who are 40s, 50s in there, and they're just incredible. It's really for individuals who've been impacted by cancer, whether you're currently going through it, you're a cancer survivor, or you're a loved one impacted by cancer. And my whole entire goal is to get you out of whatever current situation you're in, feeling stuck, feeling uncertain, feeling unclear. For me, when I was out of cancer, I knew I wanted to do something bigger with my life because I had this crazy experience that I just was able to overcome, but I didn't know the direction. I didn't know the path. So I am literally building this group to give you the direction, to give you the path, to give you the clarity to live a more purposeful and impactful life. Whether you want to go out and share your story, or whether you just want to be a better parent for your kids, whether you just want to be a better person for yourself, I'm here to help you, because at the end of the day, cancer can do one of two things. It can either define you or it can make you grow. Those are the two things it can let you do. And I don't want to be that person that lets cancer define so many people. And, that's my whole objective in life. I really feel strongly about one day building an organization where I have retreats and, I'm on stages with, thousands and thousands of people, just working through God's message for me, and being able to give back and, And one thing I would say too is, for me, like I as much as I want to help people, I want to build a legacy for my family too. I want to create wealth and I want to impact people. Just because I want to make money doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. Like, I want to make a lot of money while impacting a lot of people. And I think everybody can do that. It's just, are you willing to sacrifice certain things in your life to do that? Or if it's not a part of it, I'm content with doing X, Y, and Z, then it's just being better in that area. But that's just kind of my mission right now.
I got to have you back on the podcast for that topic alone, because that's opening up a whole Pandora's box.
It is. Trust me. Yeah.
About intention and why we do things and our purpose. And oh my goodness. Just back to the Facebook group for a minute. Currently, I know it's only 5 days old, but what can people expect when they're there? Like, what's it?
100%.
Yeah.
Every single day you're going to get something from me. I at least once or twice a week will go live doing some type of training. So like this week, I'm going to be helping anybody who is having anxiety of either the cancer coming back, or if they're going through cancer, having reoccurring health problems. I'm going to help them tackle those mental health issues so that they aren't letting it take control of their day or their week or their month, coming up to scans or coming up to things. Or I'm gonna, moving forward, I bring on, like yesterday, I just brought on a stage 4 prostate cancer survivor who had 30 days left to live. He shared his story, shared his message, and shared how him and his wife, who's currently going through breast cancer, has made a massive impact on the cancer community. So I bring on guests, I do trainings. I also, just post in the group in general. So you are going to get, the big thing about this is it's not just a family where we can just talk and things. That's great. That's awesome. There are a lot of them out there, but I'm here to give you actionable steps to go out and change your life, to truly make a difference in your life.
Wow.
So that's what my goal is.
That's really been, in my mind, a real part of your journey, is that one step at a time, and helping now people as well take those steps towards healing and their life purpose. It's incredible, the work you're doing.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, just before we wrap, I just have to say thank you for sharing so openly. I just really get the sense of your vulnerability, your truth, your directness. It's like talking to one of God's angels that has decided to stick around on the planet at this time to help us evolve. And you being here is just making our planet such an amazing place to be. So thank you for sharing all this wisdom. And I want to direct people to your website too. It's MattOdeSpeaks.com. We'll put it in the show notes as well, but MattOdeSpeaks.com. Great video there as well, so you can see that he's also a ginger like me.
Yeah, we're like brothers. I love it. We got like the same, it's like strawberry blondish a little bit. I can't really tell. Like for me, at least it is. So I love it.
It's great. We got to get Ed Sheeran next time on this show.
Oh,
well.
That's my dream. I want to get Ed Sheeran, and that would be my dream. That'd be cool. I'm in.
Absolutely. All right. Well, man. Matt, thank you again for joining us here on Let's Connect. Yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And I hope I helped your audience in some way or form. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes another episode of Let's Connect, and I hope that it's inspired you as much as it has me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember to subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast channel, and I look forward to you joining me on the next episode of Let's Connect.